on further and we will now discuss about the properties of divisibility. What are the properties of divisibility? So let's just start with the property number 1. The property number 1 says plus minus 1 divides every non-zero integer. Plus minus 1 can divide any particular non-zero integer. Let us suppose we are talking about dividing number 2 with a number 1. So we can obviously divide a number 2 with a number 1. So 1 divides every non-zero integer. So this representation can be written as, let us suppose I'm talking about taking 1 as a divisor and I'm taking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so goes on as a dividend. So we know that the number 1 divides any particular non-zero integer because the remainder will always be 0. So this is our first property which says that plus minus 1, it will take plus 1, it will take minus 1, it doesn't matter. The number plus minus 1 definitely divides every non-zero integer. So let's just move on further towards the second point. It says that if A and B are any integer, if A and B are any integers and they are non-zero integers. So this is the very important point in which we are taking the numbers as to be non-zero, which means that a number A cannot be equal to 0, a number B cannot be equal to 0. So if A and B are any integers that are non-zero and we are talking about that A divides B, this representation says A divides B. This representation says B divides A. So when a number A divides B, moreover the number B as well is dividing a number A, then it definitely means that implies to A should be equal to plus minus B. So obviously when a number A is dividing another number and another number is also dividing the first number, then they definitely both are equal to each other, or we can say that they should be of opposite sign. So let us suppose I'm talking about again an example of 3 divides 3. So obviously a number 3 divides 3 itself, we can also write it in the formation of 3 divides 3 because it doesn't matter what is the value of A over here, what is the value of B, because both of them are equal to each other. So let us suppose I'm taking it as A, I'm taking it as B, let us suppose I'm taking it as B and I'm taking it as A. So we can say that when A divides B and we can say that when B divides A, then it definitely means that 3 should be equal to 3 or either 3 should be equal to plus minus 3 because the number can be of the opposite signs as well. So we can say whenever such condition exists, when A divides B and B divides A, both of the conditions are simultaneously occurring, then A should definitely be equal to plus minus of B. So let's just move on further toward the third property. It says that if A and C are non-zero integer. So here we are talking about the non-zero integers only, we are excluding 0 from it. So let us suppose A and C are non-zero integers and B and D are any two integers, then the first part will be like when A divides B and C divides B. Whenever A divides B and C a number divides a number D, it implies that their individual products, that is AC, should definitely divide BD. So let us suppose I'll take an example of it. Let us suppose I'm talking about an example of it. Let us suppose we are taking A and B as 2 and 4. Let us suppose we are taking it as 2 and 4. As we know that 2 divides 4 and simultaneously we can take CD as 3 and 6. Let us suppose. So we can say 3 divides 6. Obviously here 2 will divide 4, 3 will divide 6. And when we will multiply 2 with 3 and 4 with 6, 2 with 3, that is nothing but 6, and 4 with 6 is nothing but 24, then obviously 6 divides 24. So this representation is nothing but of the type AC divides BD. So this is a very important concept. Always remember this fact that whenever we have any particular A, B, C, D in which A divides B and C divides D, then their multiplication, that is AC, will definitely divides BD. So let's just move on further toward the second point which says that AC divides BC. If there exist any two numbers, that is AC divide of BC type of, in which obviously C is the common factor of A and B. Over here C is nothing but the common factor of A and B. Then such condition will implies that A should definitely divide B. So let us suppose I am talking about 6 and 12. Let us suppose I am talking about 6 and 12. So 6 definitely divides 12. We can write it in the formation as 3 3 into 2 divides, we can write it in the formation like this, 6 into 2. We know that 2 is nothing but a common factor of both of these, in which 2 and 2 is nothing but the common factor which exists as a C over here. If we are talking about the second part, just see, AC divides BC representation. So this is nothing but AC divide BC representation. AC divide BC representation, where C is nothing but the common factor in both of these numbers. Then we can say that whenever AC divides BC, it implies that A should definitely divide B. So obviously A, that is 3, should definitely divide B, and B is nothing but 6 over here. So this is nothing but the last property which says that whenever we have any AC divides BC, it definitely implies A divides B. So let us suppose we are talking about dividing a particular number with the 0. So let us suppose I'm talking about dividing 0 with a number 2. So obviously we can divide 0 and a number 2, in which we can say that 0 is divisible by any non-zero integer. 0 is divisible by any non-zero integer, but 0 cannot divide any particular integer. 0 cannot divide any particular non-zero integer, because 0 representation and 0 is dividing any particular representation should be of the form, let us suppose I'm taking an example of dividing a number 2 with a number 0. So this representation is definitely called as to be undefined form. This is nothing but an undefined form. We can always say that a number cannot be, or let us suppose I'm talking about this particular representation, then I will say 0 cannot divide a number 2, because this particular formation is always undefined. So always remember that 0 is divisible by any other number, because the representation 0 by 2 is a right formation in which we can say that a number 2 can divide a number 0, but we cannot say that a number is this particular representation in which we are saying 0 is dividing 2. So always remember the two things which are related with the number 0, that 0 is divisible by a non-zero integer, but 0 cannot divide any integer. So these are the two important properties of the divisibility, in which we are talking about the properties of that are related with the number 0. So these two properties says, first one, that 0 cannot divide any particular integer, and the second one is 0 is divisible by any non-zero integer. These are the two important properties which are related with the number 0. So I hope all these properties of divisibility are all clear to you. So let's just move on further.